Hi everyone, it's Mandy and welcome to my first attempt and first try of crime time. And I'm gonna leave a disclaimer down below because I don't want to make this intro like super long. Let's get into the first video of this series, which is gonna be about Ireland's Vanishing Triangle. And this is a term that was used for a series of disappearances of high-profile Irish women in the mid to late 1990s, and that happened within a 80-mile radius around Dublin. And all of these cases seem to share some common characteristics. For example, all women were quite young. They were in their late teens to around 40 years old, and they all disappeared inexplicably and suddenly, and all in the same area, which obviously became known as the Vanishing Triangle. And there was never any substantial evidence found, despite large-scale searches and campaigns by the Irish police, which are called the Gardaí. And I know there's like a special pronunciation, but I only had one semester of Irish, so I don't know how they're really pronounced. And the unofficial number of cases was 6. And due to similarities in these cases, it was hypothesized that it might have been the result of a serial killer or killers being active in this area at that time. And to this day, it is unknown what happened to these women because no substantial evidence was ever found. So let's get into these cases. The first disappearance was of the 26-year-old Annie McCarrick, who was or is, I don't know, originally from Long Island, New York, but has Irish heritage. And on March 26, 1993, she was running some errands around Dublin and the village of Enniskerry. So it was pretty much just a really typical normal day. She was confirmed to be seen at a grocery store and at a bank, and at around 4:30 she was seen taking a bus from Ranelagh bound for the town of Enniskerry, which she actually frequently visited. So this was not something unusual for her to do. She's been there a couple of times before. So this was the last confirmed sighting of her. However, some people claim to have seen her at a pub called Johnny Fox Club in Glengollen around 9 p.m. And Glengollen is in the rural Dublin Mountains, and it was thought that she was there to see an Irish dancing show. And witnesses in this club claim to have seen her with a young man in a Rex jacket, who apparently paid for her drinks and cover charge. And this was the last reported sighting of her. And though no one saw her leave with the man, neither of them were ever seen again. And when Annie didn't show up for work to pick up her paycheck the next day, and she also didn't show up for a pre-scheduled dinner party, she was quickly reported missing, and one of the largest and most intense searches in Irish history would begin. This search included extensive ground searches and wide distributions of composite sketches of the unidentified man that she was last seen with, but nothing was found. And although witnesses have claimed to have seen Annie at the pub between 9 p.m. and 11 p.m., authorities were actually skeptical, as it would have been a 6-kilometer walk from Enniskerry to the pub on a cold and wet evening, which I don't think I would go out at that time if it was cold and raining outside. Especially not if I would have to take a 6-kilometer walk. Like, it's a big no. Some even have their doubts as to whether she actually ever made it to Enniskerry at all. 3 months later, a second disappearance occurred, and 39-year-old Eva Brennan disappeared in the foothills of the Dublin Mountains after leaving her parents' house in Wefton Park, Rutger, on her way home to her own apartment on Sunday, July 25th in 1993. Eva's family actually complained about how authorities were doing little to find out what actually happened in comparison to what they did to find out more about the more known Annie McGarrick case, and apparently took months until any real effort was found. According to Eva's sister Colette McCann, it was a month later when the police decided to take fingerprints. However, the family already cleaned everything, so there isn't anything left to be found. And obviously, after a month, months of disappearance, you just have to take the step for yourself as a family to clean everything. So it's quite obvious that nothing was found, honestly. And I'm gonna quote Colette, Eva was not the type of person that would go out at night. She was careful. Something happened. Eva disappeared 3 months after Annie McGarrick, but there was a complete world of differences between the reaction to the disappearance of the American policeman's daughter and Eva's. It should not be the case that certain people have a priority over others. Eva was months missing before they came down. It is so frustrating. A year later, 22-year-old Imelda Keenan went missing on January 3rd in 1994. She was last seen walking down Lamar Street in Waterford, and this was followed by the disappearance of the 21-year-old Josephine Dollard, who was last seen hitchhiking from Dublin to Kilkenny, which is about a 2 hours drive and 114 kilometers. And she was seen using a payphone, which was confirmed by a friend of her, but she said that Jojo had to cut the call short as a car was approaching her. In 1996, 25-year-old Fiona Pender, a hairdresser model, went outside her apartment in Tullamore, Offaly, and was never seen again, which makes this even more sad, is that at this point in time she was 7 months pregnant, and the police believed that she had been murdered and maybe buried in the Sleeve Blue Mountains, but no sign of her or the baby was ever found. On February 3rd in 1997, Clare Breen, a 17-year-old girl, went missing from her own home at Bachelor's Walk, and it was another typical day for her. She went to a cafe with her mom, and afterwards they went home, watched some TV until they went to bed at around 12:25 a.m. And at 1:50 a.m., her mother went to the bathroom and then checked Clara's room, only to find her gone. Her belongings were still there, and she wasn't known to just sneak out at night, so it was considered unlikely that she had just left. She was never seen again, and it remains unknown why and how she could just vanish at her own home, at her own bedroom. In 1998, yet another disappearance occurred when 18-year-old student teacher Deirdre Jacob simply vanished. She was last seen on her way home after running errands in broad daylight on a highly visible road she had been walking on her whole life. Her neighbors said that she was just 200 yards away from her parents' house. However, she never made it there. She never entered the house. Now, it was just the strange thing was that no one saw her leave the area. At one point she was right next to her parents' house, and the next moment she was just gone, simply vanished off of earth, never to be seen again. The same year, in 1998, a 19-year-old Fiona Sinnott vanished, and she was last seen leaving a pub in Broadway in County Wexford with her boyfriend, who claimed that the next day she had gone to a doctor's appointment and then just disappeared. So these were all of the disappearances that we're gonna look at, and because all these disappearances occurred in the same general geographical area in such a short period of time, The media quickly became interested and began calling the region the Vanishing Triangle. And this was generally used to denote an area that stretched from Wexford in the south to Louth in the north and Offaly in the west. And all victims shared common traits. They all disappeared in a certain geographical area. They were all women aged between their late teens and 40. All of them were described as looking quite young for their age, and they all vanished without any suspicious noted and without any evidence left behind. However, the area of disappearances was not unknown to authorities, as there have been mysterious deaths attributed to it before these cases even happened. For example, in July 1987, a 20-year-old mother of two, Antoinette Smith, disappeared and turned up dead at Kilagee in the foothills of the Dublin Mountains. In June 1992, a 24-year-old Patricia Doherty disappeared while shopping and turned up dead in the same mountains. And other remains have also been found in this region, however, they were less identifiable. And because all of these occurrences, the Irish authorities suspected that there might be one or more serial killers active in this area. In 1998, after the Synod disappearance, authorities set up a special task force called Operation Trace in an effort to track down any information. They mainly focused on these 6 main disappearances and came to the conclusion that the woman had likely been killed. Various leads were followed and several suspects were looked at, but there was never enough evidence to really charge anyone. So now we're gonna look at some of the suspects. The first one is Larry Murphy, who was arrested in 2000 after kidnapping a local woman, throwing her in his car trunk, raping her several times before trying to strangle her to death. He was caught in the act by 2 hunters and arrested after trying to flee, and he was convicted and sentenced to 15 years in prison. It was suspected that he was behind the disappearances of the triangle, as he lived in the same area where Dollard and Jacob had vanished, and was similar in appearance to the description given for the man last seen with McGarrick. However, to this day, he claims that he had nothing to do with these cases. Even the mother of Jacobs said that he was not responsible, which I found kind of strange, because I'm not really too sure why she would say that, but apparently, maybe gut feeling or whatever told her that he wasn't the one. Nevertheless, during the time he was in prison, the vanishing stopped, and this made him look even more suspicious. The media even gave him the nickname the Beast of Barton Glass. However, there was never enough evidence to link him to any of these disappearances. And another suspect was an IRA terrorist and child rapist who was found to have possibly been with McGarrick the night she disappeared. Apparently, there had been information that he offered her a ride home. However, he claimed that he dropped her off at a bus station, which authorities did not believe. They suspected that he drove her to the mountains, killed her, and buried her body, possibly to keep her quiet about secret information he had divulged from her. However, he was never convicted, not even after he continued assaulting children. Another suspicious move is that the IRA moved this suspect to France and later to the US after the McGarrick's disappearance, and he was never arrested or charged for any of his crimes, which leads to the idea that he was protected by the IRA. Alan Bailey, who was part of the Gardaí and served for 13 years as the national coordinator for Operation Trace, wrote a book in which he claims that the IRA suspect was not adequately pursued by authorities as they have claimed. He also says in his book that the guardian was incompetent and mishandled various leads and evidence concerning the missing woman as well as other crimes. Another possible suspect is rapist and murderer Robert Herbert, who the media named the werewolf. A reporter described him as a known sexual deviant, a killer, a rapist, murderer, the personification of evil in Ireland. In 2001, he was convicted of the brutal rape and murder of a 14-year-old girl. He was sentenced to life in prison, and his rap sheet included the sexual assault of a 6-year-old girl and another of a 58-year-old woman. A reporter named Julie Beattie claimed that an independent private investigator had dug up information about Howard that point to him as the perpetrator of at least some of the vanishings. She said that Robert Howard was connected with Annie McGarrick's case, Georgia Dollard's case, and various other cases in Northern Ireland and in the south of Ireland and in England. We understand from our own contacts that he was in and out of the area around the time that Annie was enjoying life in Ireland, all the while he relied on his quiet Irishness as a man who wore tweed jackets and just looked like an ordinary man to encourage people to trust him. They, so the sources, would put their life savings on the fact that Robert Howard was involved in these murders, and it's crippling for them as investigators, as professional men and women, that the clues are there, but the evidence isn't there to back it up. And despite all of the attention these cases have gotten, there have been little headways made in getting to the bottom of this mystery. It is unknown what happened to this woman, if they have been killed or not. It is even unknown if these cases are actually linked together or if it was just coincidence, which I don't believe that something like this can just be coincidence. In my opinion, there definitely have been serial killers or a serial killer active. It must be so frustrating for everyone who's part of this case, whether it's family members or investigators or anyone, to not know what happened, to this day not have any idea what happened to these women, if they're still alive. In my opinion, I actually doubt that there's a possibility for them to still be alive. I am pretty sure that there was a serial killer active and that these women are no longer with us. It is really, really scary how something like this can just happen, and Ireland's not that far away from here, and I've actually never heard of this case before, so for me it was really interesting to hear about that. But let me know what you thought about this first video. Also let me know if there are any cases that you would like to hear about more. I'm already working on the next one since I'm bored as well as really, really interested in true crime. So subscribe if you haven't already, give this video a like, and I hope I'm gonna see you in my next video. Bye!